Ladies and gentlemen, today I am going to take you on a journey not just familiar to me but now will be familiar to you too. Well, have you ever felt the sting of not being invited to parties, events and gatherings while your friends and siblings are? Well, it has been the reality of my childhood. But a twist came this year in 2024 when I received an invitation. It was not an ordinary invitation. It was an invitation from the President of India, Madam Draupadi Murmu, to at-home reception for tea on 26 Jan 2024. Hi, I am Divya Sharma. By profession, I am a corporate writer, and by passion, I am a disability activist, a blue belt in karate, a marathon runner, a motivational speaker, an RJ and content manager of an online radio station that is heard in more than 115 countries, a guitarist, and a woman happens to be visually impaired. Diagnosed with glaucoma at 3, I underwent more than 6 surgeries by the age of 5. Today, I can see very little from my sight. That means if you're standing in front of me, I cannot identify if it's a person or an objective. It's just light perception. I cannot read anything on document or screen. I rely totally on my screen reader software like JAWS and NVIDIA for my laptop and TalkBack and VoiceOver for my Android and iOS phones. Screen reader are software that speak aloud everything that comes on screen. This way it enables us to access the information. Today, I stand before you as someone who is always ready to fail, because failure for me is not an option. It is a way to growth. More importantly, I stand before you as someone who has lived through exclusion. Yes, I tell you, you cannot truly understand exclusion until you experience it. Maybe. Today I am President Awardee, Punjab State Awardee, Universal Emphasis Awardee and known as the Wonder Girl of Himachal Pradesh. But these accolades were never my goal. They came along. Well, now, in our society, we hardly have discussions around disability. We don't talk about disability on dining tables, in events or parties. Ask yourself, how often do you talk about the lives of a person with disability? Well, the point is, whenever we talk about persons with disabilities, I don't understand why we hush or lower our voice. What makes us so uncomfortable? Now imagine for a minute, you are a visually impaired person attending an event or a party with your parents, siblings or acquaintances. Someone approaches your parents and tells them, what does Divya want, or she wants, or he wants? What should we get her? Should we get her tea or coffee? Would you like to be treated like this? Would you like it if somebody asked the person next to you what you want? Well, this is something that most of the persons with disabilities experience. The most hilarious part is people don't realize that if they are telling something to the person next to me, I can hear that. Come on, I'm visually impaired, but I can hear. Now consider this. You are a well-educated, highly determined, dedicated, hard-working person in your field, and one day your manager or head approaches you and tells you, your payment will be delayed or you have to overwork. When you inquire, they simply tell you, see, we are already accommodating you despite your disability. Now tell me, how does it sound to you? Keep your hand on your heart and let me know that, do you feel included, respected and accepted? Of course not. But this is something that most of persons with disabilities experience. In another instance, I was working with a US company for 9 months in a remote setup, and one day there was a project where I were to upload some documents to a platform, but the platform was inaccessible. So I told them to help me, reminding them of their claim of inclusivity. But they gave me a shocking reply. They told me, Divya, since you cannot access our platform, you have to put your papers, you have to resign. You are good at your work, but you have to resign. Now this experience made me realize that maybe many companies, they claim to be inclusive, but they are not actually inclusive. They aren't. But having this view in mind, I diversified in corporate writing and securing clients in India, Dubai and the US, ensuring that even if one of the clients has accessibility issues, at least I do have other clients in hand. After all, I don't want to keep all the eggs in the same basket. One more thing. Sometimes smile comes to my face when I hear my clients talking about screen readers. Yes, good things are also happening. A few months ago, one of my clients called me and asked me, Divya, could you please check your email and find out if the project I have assigned is readable by your screen reader. It was like a personal triumph to me, because this was the first time that somebody was saying those three magical words, screen reader friendly. I felt satisfied, and I feel that change comes when you try. And since I always talked about screen readers during my conversations, the clients automatically, naturally started talking about screen readers. This is mainstreaming and not exclusion. And if you think exclusion is only in events or professional setups, then you are wrong, because exclusion is something that is, it is the mindset prevalent in different levels of society. Many people discriminate persons with disabilities in a very subtle yet sugar-coated ways. For example, when I was a child, my parents took me to an influential corporate lady to, they sought her advice about how to make sure that person like me can lead a dignified life with a disability. Her reply was shocking. She said, kids like Divya or a person with disability are good for domestic help. Now this is an experience which this incident my parents told me years later when I was, playing guitar in a cousin's wedding in Chandigarh, and that lady quietly wiped her tears and left the party. This was the lady who dismissed my potential. Now, I am sure you have amazing stories from your school days, but not everyone is that fortunate. I was told to leave a mainstream school when I was in class 7th, and none of the schools gave me admission because of my vision impairment. I did studies correspondently, and when I appeared in class 10th boards, I scored 81% marks, and my neighbor, instead of celebrating it, she expressed relief that I have at least passed. So this has been the mindset towards persons with disabilities. But a moment of contentment came years later when I gave my sensitizing session in the same school where the management told me to leave because of my disabilities. Recently again, after receiving National President Award, I was invited by the management to speak to their students. Now this was a personal triumph to me because I proved them wrong. And most importantly, the best part is that today many schools in my area, including this one, has students with disabilities. Now, exclusion again. Exclusion is not, if you think that exclusion just comes from strangers, then that's not the fact. Sometimes it comes from friends and family too. I have had relatives who would greet my siblings but ignored my presence. There were birthday calls for them but not for me, and this is something common for persons with disabilities. Well, a few years ago, I was in a conversation with some of the policy makers, and one of the policy makers said, Divya, don't you feel doubly disabled that you are a woman and have a disability? Now, this is the mindset that we are up against. This is not just my struggle, but the struggle of the entire community of persons with disabilities. But these challenges didn't break me. They motivated me to change the mindsets and societal perspectives. I continued my studies in my small town at home near Nangal, Punjab, and earned degrees in public administration, political science, and masters in English. I didn't just talk about change, I demonstrated it. I took up martial arts, earned 5 belts in karate, and aim to become the first visually challenged woman in India to have black belt in karate. Moreover, I took up martial arts, I lifted weights, I ran marathons and did paragliding, proving that persons with disabilities can gain greatness only if they are not underestimated. Now it's funny that many people think the work done by persons with disabilities is just a way of time pass, and the same work is done by others is considered as hard work. I don't understand why our efforts are seen as just tasks, but the same tasks done by others are seen as mere genuine hard work. This is something that many people with disabilities are experiencing these days. Now, if you think that, there was a time when many of my, sometimes maybe you can relate to this. There was a time that one of my, wheelchair user friend, see, the issue is not with the disability we have, it is with the mindset and the lack of accessibility in the infrastructure. One of my friends in wheelchair was denied admission because there were only stairs, no ramps. Shouldn't we consider the infrastructure disabled and not the person? Well, I'm sure there are empathetic people too. There are people who try to understand and they want to do good things for persons with disabilities. They are humble enough. For example, in one of the instances when I was in an institution for my session, there's somebody from the faculty member approached me and asked me, Divya, do you need any help? I told them I have my white cane and I can take care of things and I will ask for it if I need help. But the point is, they didn't just grab my arm. They asked me if I needed their help. Now this is decency. And there are times when people with disabilities people start doubting their disability when they see they are doing good in their lives. For example, in one of the institutions when I was there for my session, one gentleman deliberately kept a desk in my way to check if I was truly disabled, and I banged into that. In another instance, one of the senior faculty members in an institution laughed at me after asking, how do you use a website? Can you describe? So they were doubting my disability. The point is simple. I understand that you have that hesitation. You feel doubting when you want to talk to persons with disabilities. You fear that you may offend them. But the truth is, people with disabilities are happy to talk to you about their disabilities if you show intention. It is time that we should we should bridge the gap and remove the hesitation that barriers comfortable conversations between persons with disabilities and the society. So we work hard, we contribute to the society, we pay taxes, and we are trying hard to make our place in this world. Inclusion starts with simple steps, but its impact can change the world. Let us walk this path together. Thank you.